Hey, thanks for tuning in. On this episode, I'm going to show you how I build a ladder stand extension without using a welder. Alright, let me start this video off with a little disclaimer. In case you didn't know, I'm not an engineer, and this might be totally unsafe to do, and I'm sure the ladder stand companies would not recommend you doing this. This is just something that I built at my own risk, and I would highly recommend you doing your own research to determine if this is safe or not. Alright, with that being said, let's get started with how I built this. The materials that I used for this build were some 1-inch square tubing, 1 1/4 inch angle iron, and some 1/4-20 nut bolts and washers. Now most of the ladder stand legs are made from 1-inch square tubing and have a small section of 1 1/4 inch piece at the bottom of it. The first thing that I did was slid 2 pieces of the 1-inch square tubing into the bottom section of one of the ladders. I then marked the location where I needed to drill to attach the 2 sections together. I center punched the locations I just marked and drilled the 1/4 inch hole. Now if you don't have a drill press, I suggest you drill through one side at a time. That way you know your holes will line up on both sides. After drilling the holes, I placed the rails back into the bottom section of the ladder stand with the 1/4-20 bolt. Now the width of the steps on my ladder stand were 17 inches wide and 20 inches apart. So with the 6 feet I'm adding on with my ladder stand extension, I'll need to cut 5 steps. Now to save money, I used an old bed frame that I had laying around for the 1 1/4 inch angle iron that I needed. After cutting all the steps, I center punched and drilled a hole 1/2 inch from the end of each step. I then placed the step 20 inches apart from the last step and marked where my holes were on the rails. I center punched and drilled the 1/4 inch hole where I made the markings. With the location of the top step figured out, I then marked the locations of the next 4 steps, keeping them 20 inches apart. I followed that by center punching and drilling a 1/4 inch hole on all the markings. With all the holes completed on the front side of the first rail, I flipped it over and repeated the steps on the back side. After completing the first rail, I placed the second rail next to the first rail and marked all the hole locations onto the second rail. I center punched and drilled 1/4 inch holes just like I did to the first rail. With all the holes drilled on both rails, I placed them back into the bottom section of the ladder with a 1/4-20 bolt. I then hand tightened the top step on with a 1/4-20 bolt and nut. I repeated the process for the next 4 steps, working from the bottom back to the top. Now that I know that all the steps fit, I removed the burrs with a grinder and reattached each step with a 1/4-20 bolt, 2 washers, and a lock nut. After tightening all the bolts, that completes my ladder stand extension. But there's one more thing I like to add to them to prevent them from sinking into the ground. First, I cut 2 4-inch pieces of 1.25" angle iron. Then I drilled a 1/4-inch hole in the center of one of the sides in both pieces. I placed the angle iron a 1/4 inch from the bottom of the rail and marked the location of the hole. I center punched and drilled a 1/4 inch hole where I marked the rails. Using a 1/4-20 bolt, 2 washers, and a lock nut, I tightened the angle iron to the outside of the rail. I made sure I didn't over tighten the nut so it would still pivot on the rail. And that's the end of this build. Just keep in mind, if you ever add an extension onto your ladder stand, that you should also add another support bar. Thanks for watching this video. Please hit the subscribe and like button down below. Go over to Facebook and Huntwise and follow us. And until next time, take care of yourself.